So a question you might get is how many liters are in 750 milliliters? So if you look at your steps, your first step is going to be to determine your given. So our given, remember, is going to be whatever number and unit we're given in the problem. So if we read our problem, it says how many liters are in 750 milliliters. So that means our given is going to be 750 milliliters. So if you look at your second step on that list, it's going to be to determine the conversion factor or multiple conversion factors that you need to solve the problem. So if we think about what we have milliliters in our given, and we're trying to figure out how many liters. So remember, a conversion factor is how many of this are in that. So what we want to know is how many milliliters are in a liter. So our conversion factor is going to look something like this. 1 liter equals some number of milliliters. Usually this will be given to you. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to you and tell you that there are 1,000 milliliters in a liter. So that is our conversion factor. That's always your second step. So if you look at your third step is going to be to set up that T-chart. So it's always going to start with just the shape of a T, just like that. And remember, I told you to write down what goes in each of these boxes. I'm going to kind of explain those to you now. So in this first box right here, that's always going to be your given, which you already figured out. This right here is your given, and it's going to go always go right there. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and write it, and make sure to put your units with that too. Okay, so that's where our given goes. If you look down here, it says that that box is usually going to be blank. The only time it wouldn't be blank is if for some reason we were doing, the units were miles per hour, then the hour would be on the bottom. But we typically don't use stuff like that in this class. Okay, so usually we get here, and this next part is the part that gets messed up most of the time. So we have 2 more blanks left. We have this top and this bottom. So the important thing to remember is past this line, anything past this vertical line, that's where your conversion factors are going to go. So remember, we already figured out our conversion factor. So what I want you to do is think about this as whatever is on the top is going to be equal to whatever's on the bottom. So this equal sign is essentially taking the place of this line right here. So you have half of the conversion factor and you have the other half. One's going to go on top, one's going to go on bottom. And the hardest part is remembering which one goes where. So if you read that chart that I told you to copy down, the top is always going to be your goal unit, or what you're trying to get to, and the bottom is always going to be the unit that you started with. It's going to be the unit that matches your given. So that means whatever unit you have right here needs to be the same unit on the bottom. The reason for that is because at the end we're going to multiply across the top and divide by the bottom. And since you're dividing something by itself, it cancels out. It goes away. So that's our whole goal, is to cancel out those units that we don't want to see anymore. So since we're starting with milliliters, we need to get rid of milliliters. So milliliters are going to go on the bottom. So before we fill in any numbers for our conversion factor, we always want to fill in our units first. So if milliliters are going to be on the bottom, that means whatever other unit we have in our conversion factor is going to go on the top. So that means my liters are going to go on the top. So now I have my units filled in. I just have to fill in the numbers to go with them. So we have 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. So remember, I said the top is equal to the bottom. So we have to fill that in as 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. So that would be our full T-chart setup. And all we have to do after that is step 4, which is multiply across the top and divide by the bottom. So we're gonna take those top two numbers and we're gonna multiply them. And then we're gonna take that and divide by whatever is on the bottom. So what we have is 750 times 1, which would be 750. And then we're gonna take that 750 and divide by 1,000. So what you end up typing into your calculator is 750 divided by 1,000, okay? And hopefully when you type that in, you get 0.75 as your answer. Always put your units in your answer. So remember our milliliters, we can show those canceling out and we're just left with liters, which will be in our unit answer. So they do get a little bit harder because sometimes you have to do 2 steps in your dimensional analysis, 2 steps in your T-chart. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So this question says, how many seconds are in 6.5 hours? So always start with step 1, which is figure out your given. So your given is going to be whatever number you're given in the problem. I'm going to go ahead and label that. Step 2 is to figure out your conversion factors. So remember, conversion factor is how many of this are in that. We want to know how many seconds are in this many hours. So off the top of our head, we probably don't know how many seconds are in an hour. You could probably figure that out, but let's go with, we don't know off the top of our head. So let's write out what we do know. We know that 1 hour is 60 minutes. And we know that 1 minute is 60 seconds. Sorry, my handwriting is so bad. So we know that 1 hour is 60 minutes and 1 minute is 60 seconds. So that's 2 conversion factors, and I'll show you how to use both of them in your T-chart. So remember, step 3 is to set up your T-chart. So I'm going to start with just what I showed you last time. We're always going to put our given right here. Okay. Next, we're going to put our conversion factor, or one of them. You start with one conversion factor, and I'll show you how to use the other one next. Start with our first conversion factor, and we're going to fill it in right here. Remember, whatever's on the top is equal to the bottom. And we want our units to cancel out. So hours are right here. That means we need to put hours on the bottom. So now let's look at our conversion factor. We aren't ready to use this one yet because there's no hours involved in that conversion factor. In this one, we have 1 hour is 60 minutes. So that's the conversion factor I'm going to use first. So remember, 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. I always like to show my units canceling out. Since one's on the top and one's on the bottom, they're going to cancel each other out. So now what I have is I'm left with 60 minutes. So now I need to do my second step in my T-chart because we're not to our goal yet. Our goal is to get to seconds. So if I'm at minutes right now, all I'm going to do is add on a third section of our T-chart. This is going to be our second step in the problem. We're going to go through the same steps. Since we have minutes on the top, we want those units to cancel out. So we're going to put minutes on the bottom this time. And if we look at our conversion factors, we already used this one right there. So we're not going to use that one again. So that means we need to use this one. So we have 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So 1 minute goes on the bottom. 60 seconds goes on the top. Our minutes cancel each other out, and the unit we're left with is seconds, which is what we were looking for in the question. So that means that we're done. We've gotten where we need to go. So that last step, step 4, remember this was step 3, our T-chart is all the way set up. So step 4 is going to be multiply across the top, divide by the bottom. So we're going to multiply 6.5 times 60. Take that number, multiply it by 60, and then we're going to divide by whatever number's on the bottom. But since the bottom is just 1, we don't have to divide by anything. If you had a number on the bottom, you'd have to divide by that. If you do that correctly, you should get this answer. 23,400. Remember, our units that we ended with were seconds. So we're going to say seconds. and that would be your answer. So that's how you do a two-step dimensional analysis.